Yo, what's going on? A pluses, nerd mixes. It's your boy, Indy Uchiha. And yeah, we're finally doing this, even though I don't want to. It's over. Um, this is the final review for a series that we've been covering here on A Plus for 9 years now, 9 seasons. The CW's Flash, starring Grant Gustin, has finally come to an end. They did the last 4 episodes in a 4-parter, so it was A New Home, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. Part 1 and Part 4 were the two that were, I believe, the standouts in this. 2 and 3, I felt were kind of disheveled. Didn't really do a lot for me. But Part 1 and Part 4 for me were done pretty well, especially Part 1. Part 1 where Grant gets thrown back in time and has to deal with the original, you know what I'm saying, Thawne. Brought that actor back. Him coming to terms with not having to save his mom and everything like that, and forgiving Thawne for what he did, you know, and leaving Thawne stuck there powerless with no powers, and seeing this little blue crystal. It was really crazy watching Barry interact with his parents. I just really feel like that episode was the epitome of what this show is. So at least in Part 1, I feel like we got everything. Don't mind the cats; they're upset about the Flash being over too. We got the epitome of everything going on with his parents, him interacting with Nora more, you know what I'm saying? His mom sitting down with them taking him in like he's just some homeless guy that got hurt, you know what I'm saying, hit by a car or something. It was amazing the way they put that together, right? Then you get to episode 2. Bro, I can't even remember episode 2. Be totally honest with you. You know, Iris having a baby, Barry pops back, ends up leaving again. They dealt with a lot of what goes on with other people. I don't even remember episode 2. Like, I literally have to go look at my notes in order to be able to remember what happened in part 2 of that, which went on. Part 3 was it had a lot to do with Khione and her powers and her abilities and who she was going to be, and or maybe that was part 2. I don't remember. No, it was just so friggin' flustered and everything that was going on that I only remember part 1 and 4 because those were the parts that really stood out to me and what happened. Let me see if I could pull up my synopsis that I wrote of part 2. So all right, basically in part 2, Chester finds traces of cobalt energy where Barry was taken, and we end up having Mark come back. Why Mark is still here, I have no idea. Allegra gets attacked by like a cobalt gas, so she's out because she's a CCC media. There's something going on there. And it basically almost kills 2 of the CC media employees. Khione ends up like reviving them by, I think she like grew plant cells or something like in their bodies, and their skin ended up turning green. They freaked out about that. Mark and Khione get into it. I gotta put my glasses on so I can read my notes. Mark and Khione get into it. I think he calls her like a monster or abomination or something like that because he's possessed by a crystal. He ends up knocking out Cecile, attacking Iris. The Speed Force comes and saves Iris, and then explains to Mark that he's become the new vessel for the negative speed force, and convinces her to and convinces like Khione to embrace her power. Khione ends up saving Mark by literally disintegrating and resembling his body, and the crystal disappears. Barry ends up popping back up for some reason. Iris goes into labor. Khione like feels like she's gonna leave Central City to fulfill her role as like a goddess or something like that. And all of a sudden, Barry disappears again. And then they jump to 2049, where a dude named Malcolm Gilmore, who looks like Eddie Thawne, ends up going to CCPD, where the captain there tells her about Eddie. He ends up hearing a voice in his head that's telling him to find Iris, and he just start having flashes of like Eddie's memories, right? So he basically goes and like digs up Eddie Thawne's grave and finds it empty, and then he realizes that he's Eddie, and then he's got the captain of the police squad with him, and he pulls a bullet, you know what I'm saying, out the chest to use to shot himself to prove that he's Eddie Thawne. So they're setting up like the whole cobalt blue, you know what I'm saying, jump off with it. It was pretty interesting how they did that, because that's right at the end of the last episode. What happened at the end of the first episode? I don't know. This I'm just upset it's over. That there's something about this, these like part 2 and part 3, that to me are somewhat forgettable. I mean, the whole thing about the Eddie Thawne thing, that's when you see Eddie in a lab, and he ends up getting thrown into chemicals like Barry. So you're thinking like, whoa, he's gonna get powers like Barry. But no, I think it was just the negative speed force setting him up, making him available, you know what I'm saying, for what happened. And then when we get into part 3, which was the 12th episode of the season, you get Team Flash trying to work together to protect Barry, to try to find him, all while not being able to trust, not being able to know who they trust, because anybody could be infected by the negative speed force. So basically, the speed force comes and warns Team Flash that Barry and that weird crystal are in 2049, right? And then she vanishes. Eddie watches the cop that was there with him get pulled into the singularity over the grave after he pulls the bullet out. He ends up going to the Flash Museum, and he sees a girl that looks like Nora Allen but has blonde hair. Then the real Nora stops him. He's in 2049 the whole time this is happening, right? He finds out that he's like subconsciously opening these singularities. Nora ends up being the person becomes possessed by the crystal. When and tries to like tempt Eddie, you know what I'm saying, accepting the power, because Eddie's, and we end up finding that like that Eddie Thawne is the perfect vessel for the negative speed force. Now think about it. We've had multiple vessels for the negative speed force, whether it was Salvatore, whether it was Zolomon, whether it was Godspeed, whether it was Reverse Flash. But Eddie Thawne is the perfect vessel for this, right? So Barry ends up appearing, escapes with Eddie. Eddie is upset that him dying didn't get rid of Reverse Flash, and that everybody forgot, like kind of like forgot about him. You know what I'm saying? And then Barry's just kind of like living the life that he was supposed to live. So Team Flash comes up with a plan to have Cecile send her consciousness into her body, and then she's supposed to help Barry, right? And like whoever is infected by the negative speed force, she's supposed to like project the negative speed force out their body. But then she ends up going there, and she finds out that in this future that she only like visits Joe and her kid like twice a year. So she ends up freaking out coming back, and it's like she's skeptical of completing the plan because of how that made her feel, which is crazy to me, because I feel like her of all people should have been more prepared for this type of situation anyway. You know what I'm saying? With her being older, her power set, the way she's doing, like she should have known that, all right, when I go back, I'm going to change that so that this doesn't happen. But whatever. Um, Chester's like, hey, Khione, maybe you should go talk to her. And then Khione urged Chester to go do it and said that he's the best person to be able to do it. And after he consoles Cecile, she returns to 2049 the same way, frees Nora from the crystal's influence. And then they go about doing what they do. Eddie ends up going to Iris, asking her to be with him, that this is their chance to fix everything that was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Since he killed himself, he wanted to come back and fix his life. But she kind of rejected him, told him it was Barry, it was always gonna be Barry, even when we're going through our thing, it was something that was always I was always gonna end up with Barry. So then that's when the negative speed force begins to tempt him, like really get him, because he doesn't understand what he died for. He done lost everything. Nobody's gonna remember him. Barry's doing his life. So like this is what I like, because Eddie Thawne was like the ultimate hero, and then they gave this motivation to him. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who was just brought back to life and having to go through all this stuff, you know what I'm saying, after being gone for so many years, and just seeing this life that he was supposed to live, that Barry's living, and the fact that his sacrifice didn't even mean anything. So that's when the negative speed force starts to, you know what I'm saying, really get his claws in on what's going on with Eddie, right? But now Eddie's in possession of the crystal, and he ends up accepting the power, and then he opens a portal and leaves. At the same time, Barry gets pulled away again when he's having a talk with 2049 Iris. Man, that was probably the highlight of episode 3. Episode 1 with the old school Eobard Thawne was probably the, you know what I'm saying, the best thing that happened. You know what I'm saying, as far as this 4-parter, part 1 was probably the best. But the final episode did not lack. I feel like maybe it should have been, maybe they should have gave it a little bit more time. Like maybe it should have been like something where they gave it an hour and a half to really flesh out the story, because the part 4, although it was good to me, it felt like it moved at a pace that was too fast. Like they were just trying to hurry up and finish everything up. So Barry ends up being challenged with his biggest task yet to save the timeline and save existence, because with everything that Eddie Thawne and Negative Speed Force are doing is fracturing the entire timeline, like across the multiverse or whatever, right? So he ends up preparing Team Flash to be able to do it. But the whole thing about Cobalt Blue, which Eddie is going by now, which is a prominent, you know what I'm saying, Flash villain, he ends up recruiting other people to help him. So he resurrects Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, Hunter Zolomon, Zoom, Savitar, and August Hart Godspeed, and gathers them in the Negative Speed Force and let them know what's going on. That was probably the dopest part of that episode to me, was the interaction of like August and Godspeed and Zoom, and then have a Reverse Flash come down and give his quibs, and then Savitar pop up and just ruin the whole thing. But you know, then you go back to 2023 with Team Flashes, and you have Nora and Cecile team, and you end up having Cecile put on a costume, and then she says that her code name is Virtue. They all end up like fighting different people, and look, Cecile beats the brakes off of Godspeed. Nora, as she should, ended up beating Savitar, because she should know how to beat him, because father beat him. You know what I'm saying? She actually had the coolest, I think, win, because she ended up Savitar got that thing where he always does, where he grabs him by the back and he's getting ready to stab him. She ended up vibrating where she was going to get stabbed at, so it just went straight through, broke off his like sword stabby thingy, and ended up stabbing him in the back. Zolomon went after he ended up fighting Khione and Mark, and Khione is just OP. You know what I'm saying? She just ended up just taking him out. She absorbed all of his lightning and then just shot him back at him and knocked him out. And then when it came to who was it? Reverse Flash, it was Allegra. He went after Chester, almost killed Chester. Allegra like vamped out and went Super Saiyan or something like that. Like had a Goku blast, like a Gohan blast. That it was like that thing like where unlock potential Goku, like a Dragon Ball Fighters when his basic special when he just like powers up, did something like that and ended up knocking him out. And then revived Chester. And then when you get to Eddie Thawne, he's beating the brakes off the Barry. Barry doesn't want to hurt him. You know what I'm saying? Barry's trying to convince him that he's a hero, that he doesn't have to become like Eobard, that they create a better world by like coexisting. And then Jay Garrick ends up stealing Eddie's speed and said that one of his doppelgangers, one of his other people taught him how to do that. And I think that's the one from Stargirl. So if that was a cool you know what I'm saying, throwback, because I think Stargirl is coming back on. Though it's not, I guess you could say it's connected to the Arrowverse because of Jay Garrett, but I don't really know. But then Eddie ends up absorbing the negative speed force from August, Zolomon, Eobard, and Savitar, and then he teleports to the negative speed force in order to try to absorb more, which is going to fracture everything. But Barry does his best talk no jutsu. I'm to the point that I think Barry Allen has a better talk no jutsu than Naruto. Ends up talking Eddie into destroying the crystal and says he is happy for, and then Eddie starts talking about he's happy for Barry and Iris, and then Barry returns her at the hospital, and they end up having Nora, right? And then they do tests on Chester because they don't understand how Chester could take all that lightning shot. And Mark reveals that Chester is a metahuman with black hole abilities. So they literally made damn near every character except for Joe a superhero. And then they tell us that Chester has abilities and we only get to see what they are. So the next morning, Nora's born. Harrison Wells just pops up out of nowhere, tells Khione it's time for her to ascend and to check the natural order of things. She tells everybody bye, this long drawn out farewell, and then Caitlin just returns. So like she left, she no longer needed the vessel, and she figured out a way to bring Caitlin back, and all of a sudden everybody's happy. So nobody died. Like all the tragedy over these past couple of seasons and everything went on, it just all got fixed. And then 1 week later, Barely apologized to Caitlin for how things left. Joe and Cecile ended up getting engaged. They cut to Barry being at home with Iris. Nora's crying. Barry picks her up and then starts to tell her his life as the Flash is a bedtime story, just like Nora said he always do. Barry tells Nora how fast he is and how when he was a kid, how he lost people he cared about and how he won't let that happen to her, saying their family is blessed with like amazing gifts and that now he believes that his speed shouldn't just belong to them. He reflected on how Oliver said that the lightning chose him, and Barry himself would now do the choosing. So he ends up unleashing lightning bolts to share his speed with every hoe, Max Mercury, and Jess Chambers, who all become new speedsters, which gives me the hope that even though the Flash is over, that maybe we end up getting something with these new speedsters and maybe Nora and stuff like that. And he believes that if he shares a piece of self, he can break like the cycles of violence and pain and stuff like that. So I'm gonna state this before I give my closing on this, right? You want to hear a story. Okay, before I start, I need you to do something first. I need you to stop crying. And I need you to believe the impossible. Can you do that? Good. Look, your dad is fast, faster than the speed of sound. And the faster I go, the more the world slows down. But it always wasn't easy. When I was a kid, I lost the people that I cared about most. I won't let that happen to you. That's why your mom and I, we need to do something impossible. Our family has been blessed with these amazing gifts. Maybe that speech shouldn't just belong to us anymore. My friend Oliver said that the lightning chose me. Well, now I'm going to do the choosing. My name is Barry Allen, but their names are Avery Ho, Max Mercury, and Jess Chambers. Maybe if we share a piece of ourselves, we can break out of the old cycle of violence and pain, create a new world for you, Nora, a better one where we can coexist, all of us together, a world where nothing has to be impossible as long as we believe in it. I'm going to tell you something, guys. My journey on this channel with A Plus Hero Report began with this show. It's not going to end with it, but it is bittersweet that a show that brought me to you A Plusers to be a part of this amazing channel and is over. I didn't realize that it meant that much to me. And I didn't think anything would bother me more than like Arrow ending, because I'm a huge Green Arrow fan. The fact that the Arrowverse birthed all these shows that we were into, and now that they're all gone is it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. I know we got other shows and stuff that we're going to review that are going to be down the line, and that's going to get me connecting and being able to talk with you guys, you know what I'm saying, more and conversate with you. But this one hurts. This one hurts. I thought, I know I was ready for it to go, but it's hard, you know what I'm saying, to see it go. A couple of them last seasons were rough, but like I said, part 1 and part 4 of this, especially that ending with them foreshadowing the new speedsters and everything like that, I feel like that was the perfect ending for Barry, the perfect happy ending that a lot of our heroes didn't get. And the fact that Barry has been, I feel, the heart of even though, you know what I'm saying, Stephen Amell and his portrayal of Oliver Queen might have been the soul, you know what I'm saying, of this Arrowverse. Grant Gustin's portrayal of Barry Allen and this show, The Flash, is very much so the heart of the Arrowverse. And although I wasn't completely happy with this 4-part finale that they had, I do love the direction that they took with it. Like I said, the part 1 was very good. The part 4 was good enough for me. I would have liked the stakes to feel like they're a little harder. I love the fact that they did the call back to bring all those villains back, and I'm happy that they went all the way back to the first season, you know what I'm saying, to bring in Eddie Thawne, to have him be the final, you know what I'm saying, wrinkle in the fabric that the Flash had to get over. So I feel like all of his burdens, you know what I'm saying, have been lifted because he's gone full circle. Let me know what y'all thought about this below in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will be having more stuff coming for you guys. The anime stuff is getting hot. First 2 episodes of the next part of Bleach, June 25th. We got Heels coming in July. It's still going to be a lot of content on the channel for you guys. And don't forget A Plus Hero Report. All right. So until next time, for the last time, man, I'm gonna miss the show, yo. Thank you to the cast. Even though all the BS I gave Iris, I really like this season. For me, for her, was a change. I like to goof around and stuff like that, but I do like Candace Patton's portrayal. I just wish that the writers would have gave her more to work with. Thank you, Grant Gustin, for bringing a character that I love to life and being the best version of that character I've seen in live action. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, Tell me your best Flash memories. You know what I'm saying? Like over the course of the Flash, put them below. Tell me what you love the most about the Flash series. And until our next venture together, guys, keep it A+. This has been our Error Mix. Indy out.